Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? All right. So welcome to the School of Social Work Student Union's First Generation Subcommittee event. So this is our first big event of the semester. We've been working for months to make this happen. And so just very quick, if anyone needs to use the restrooms, are right down the hall. A gender inclusive restroom is on the other side of the space. So if you walk down this hall, make a right, keep going straight until you see a lounge. There should be a gender inclusive restroom there. Additionally, before we really continue, we want to make sure that we are acknowledging the land that we're on. So we have a land acknowledgement written. I'm going to read it. Pardon me if I mess up the names. I'm trying here. All right. So we ask for some silence as this happens. So we acknowledge that the University of Michigan, named for Michigami, the world's largest freshwater system and located in the Huron River watershed, was formed and has grown through connections with the land stewarded by Niswi, Ishkodewan, and Ishnabeg, the three Fires people who are the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, along with their neighbors, the Seneca, Delaware, Shawnee, and Wyandot nations. And we also want to let you know that we do have a small ultra space over there. If anyone at any point in time needs to use it, would like to use it during the event or a little after, it'll be there for some time. Next, I want to welcome Victoria. She's going to help us in welcoming our sponsors and just anyone that's been helping us put this together.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're very excited to share this space with so many folks. And I just want to take the time to thank our sponsors and everybody who put some efforts into putting this event together. We often talk about breaking down and racist systems and supporting anti-racist curriculums and events in this university. So thank you to all the sponsors who've extended themselves past everything that we talk about. It's not just lip service. We feel seen, we feel heard, and we feel visible. So thank you to the Rackham Graduate School, to MESA, for the Department of American Culture, the School of Social Work, School of Social Work Student Union, CW, to Professor Abigail Eiler, to Dr. Larry Gant, Dr. Karen Stoller, Dr. David Cordova, Nishoran Price, and Lauren Davis. We also want to thank the School of Social Work facilities and the AV team. Thank you very much.
So now, Jury Sanchez is going to help us welcome our speaker.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. I'm really excited about this event. It's been a long time coming, as a lot of my colleagues have been saying. For me, Clelia is amazing. I actually came up her book through Instagram. And then I saw that she was Salvadorian, and I was like, I need to read that book. I read it 3 pages in. I was like, I need to meet this lady. And so it's so awesome standing next to her, and I'm so excited to be able to share space with her today. So I wanted to I wrote something real quickly as an introduction. So kind of just how I felt as I was reading her work. So as a first-generation college student and the daughter of a Salvadorian immigrant mother, I never felt represented in academia until reading Decolonizing Academia, Poverty, Oppression, and Pain. Dr. Rodríguez's work reinforced how academia is a wide space that was not built for people that look like me, unless we signed a contract giving up our way of thinking, writing, and living. In her book, she quotes Berta Cáceres' teaching, "They're afraid of us because we aren't afraid of them." Dr. Rodríguez's words gave me the language to articulate how I was feeling at the University of Michigan. Through Dr. Rodríguez's words, I have felt validated, represented, and inspired to continue persevering through higher education spaces. Today, as we celebrate Latinx Heritage Month, it is an honor to introduce my Salvadorian hermana, Dr. Clelia Rodríguez.
Okay. Cool.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, so I want to talk first and foremost about these notions of the politics of acknowledgement. So I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Pehuira territory. So where we are physically today,
And why I want us to keep in mind why that awareness matters, why our presence here matters. I want us to think about land rights. I want us to think about his story of colonialism. I want us to think about ways to change these settler colonial societies and their mentality. And we have to politicize this so that it does not become this just another token gesture. So how do we turn this acknowledgement today into action? So in the website, http://native dash land.ca, you can actually go into the website and enter your zip code or a Canadian zip code or any place in the world, and it will literally tell you what territory we are occupying. It tells you the treaties and also the languages and how fucked the history of that place is. Yeah, I swear so. So what is this particular university doing to recognize officially the history beyond recognizing that we are where we are? And this is not just a metaphorical or like a rhetorical question. Like, what is this university doing officially to recognize that? Because I work here for one semester, and in almost every building, there was just like white people on like everywhere, like monumentalized. And that's just wrong. So once again, an acknowledgement is in order. So I would like to begin for real, acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Peura indigenous peoples. I am grateful today for the fire that brought me here. I stand here today because the anger is really happening and is not going anywhere. This is not just a poetic act, but also a call for action in academic spaces. So what I bring with me are intentions of radical love in the pursuit of unlearning as methods of liberation, surviving, and seeing information for what it is, colonialist. Us present here, carrying in our shoulders intergenerational learning transmitted directly or indirectly through our parents, grandparents, ancestors. They relate to an ongoing and undoing process of peeling layers of colonialism. The awareness of space should be like a tattoo in the soles of our feet. I repeat, the awareness of space should be like a tattoo in the soles of our feet. That seems to be the first disconnect we experience waking up in the morning. That moment when you get to experience where you are standing, sitting down, lying down, is vital for the rest of the day as we face struggles. Do we know the history where we walk on, where we run, where we dance? And if not, why not? How does this relate to spring break? That's a ghost, I'm serious. How does this... Hello? Again. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. So, do we know the history where we walk, we dance, we sleep, et cetera, right? Okay. And if not, why not? How does this relate to spring break when a 5.5-hour flight takes us down to Cancun, Mexico, when it would have taken some of our relatives from Central America up to 3 months or more to make the trip by train and foot, given that they're not killed? How does this geography change in our way to navigate uprooted histories? For some people who earned air miles, it's quite a different story, and overlapping the two different ways of reading geography obscure a thing or two. I do not know about you, but I have had enough of these drone-like educational spaces and systems. My way of reading geography matters, and we have to fight to have it included. My intention is not to give the ABCs of solutions. A TED Talk is a better channel to do that. I would not also be using a PowerPoint with keyword results, objectives, a body, and a wrap-up and conclusion as if it was a drive-through experience like McDonald's. The events that took place in the area where we are today are solidified in words that may not be so different to some of us. And please, put up your hand if these words relate to you as I read them. Forced from their ancestral lands. Relocated. Pressure from white settlers. Disposition of the land. Turmoil. Become citizens of the United States of America. And the last one is termination policies. So I got this at Starbucks this morning. And I have given you a symbolic text, a coffee bean. You have also received a black page. Those are the only two texts that I will normally give students at the beginning of the semester in a syllabus. Those are the only two texts that I need to give to students at the beginning of the semester. That's why I will never be able to get a tenure track position, because you have to give detail by detail information as to what your students are going to be learning. So coffee beans and a black page. The coffee beans that you hold are from a place in Guatemala known as Casi Cielo, almost heaven. So this would be my third text if I was literally constructing a syllabus right now. And this will be your first mandatory reading. Welcome to Latin America. The Latin American coffee bean, known for its quality and ever-evolving flavor sophistication, has remained a passion of ours for over 40 years. From the volcanoes of Guatemala to the cloud forests of Mexico's Chiapas region, these countries produce a spectacular array of flavor notes, herbal, citrusy, and chocolatey with a touch of walnut. Almost heaven. How many of you have heard of Jacqueline Cain, the 7-year-old Guatemalan little girl who died at the hands of ICE? Okay, she comes from this region. So that would be probably the first homework that I will give out. Google who that child is. And try to make connections as to why drinking this particular coffee makes me a cómplice. Accomplice. The history of El Salvador. The reason why I'm standing here today is because of coffee beans. In 1932, 32,000 indigenous people were killed because foreigners wanted that land to plant coffee. 32,000 people in one day. 32,000 people. So my keyword would be impact. What are the implications of colonialism then in my own journey? There is not even one single day that passes by that I drink a cup of coffee without literally thinking about those of my ancestors that were killed so that we could be enjoying these coffee beans today. So the coffee bean that you have in your hands weighs a lot of money. And then some people still have the audacity to ask me, why are you so angry all the time? So what is my relationship to this territory? Going back to the keywords that I read out loud before. How do I relate to that, to this territory? How did I come to be here, besides all the sponsors? So what are my intentions to disrupt this and dismantle colonialism? Questions marching to line up political labor. But if you want the emotional labor in that coffee bean, you better pay me a lot of money. So why disobedience matters? The first time I came across the word imposter, I-M-P-O-S-T-E-R, I was like, wait, it sounds more like imposter. So recognize what and who gets in the way and tell them to move. And if they don't move, you move them. Hashtag enough is enough. We're done. So imposter. Last night we were having dinner with the ladies, and I was saying to them, holy shit, we're fucking genius. Because we were talking about how privileged folks, without using any reference to pigmentations, God forbid that I get called on hate speech. We were talking about privilege and what some privileged folks do whenever they apply to universities. And the entire system and financial help they receive to get here. If they cannot write a statement of interest, they pay for someone to proofread it. A letter of intention, hell, there is someone that can actually write that for you. People make money. There is actually, I didn't know this, there's actually professionals that write applications on behalf of students. And I think that there was like a scandal here that the actually parents bribed the universities, administrators, for them to get there. Some of us have done it on our own, without a spell check, software, without anything. And we're still here. We're genius. Like, so recognize how we have arrived here. Be angry, but also be happy and recognize that brilliance. Because we are. And next time that you feel that imposter syndrome or somebody makes you feel like that, turn them back and say, no, you're the imposter. So I arrived here because I survived when I was not supposed to survive. Luck, my mom's prayers. Hi, Mom, if you're watching this. Coincidence, a random miracle. So every now and then, a group of friends and I talk about how we ended up where we are 33 years ago. Thousands of us flee El Salvador in masses. Just like you see people now on TV with this notion of the caravana. North was never my destiny. I never wanted to leave El Salvador. Never wanted to leave El Salvador. Safety was the destiny. My family and friends never meant to cross borders. The borders crossed us. Death and destruction reach our bodies without any permits or proper documentation. They're the ones that are undocumented. When blood splatter all over the walls, penetrating windows, staining our clothing, and invalidating the privacy of our smells, we knew we were up against intruders disturbing our peace and our way of living. Foreigners came to invade us. The current and past administration of this country suffers not from an inconvenient amnesia, but one that is simply cynical. The Trojan horse arrived in helicopters to El Salvador without an invitation. They just landed, crossing emotional, psychological, and physical walls. They landed with the permission of consumerism and capitalism. They wanted this. Land, modern slave-like labor practices, deliciousness. The thirst for fresh, grounded coffee, groomed and sold like hot tamales. So what do? We disobey. The word disobedience rings energy in my ears. Alguien dice que hay que portarse mal y yo soy la primera en estar allí. For those of us whose bodies are red under the prism of otherness, smiling diminished the strength of a crashing wave. In my head, I picture who was going to be here. I try evoking your ancestors. I picture you dancing, hanging out with friends, getting high, enjoying tamales, vaping, walking on the streets, listening to your favorite podcast. Then I thought of all the dangers and how we risk our lives just by doing that, living. So to speak of this is difficult because one of my first barriers and borders is language. There is a sense of limitation trying to capture in consonantes y vocales the sense of injustice. Some of us breathe in and out. I feel like my lungs are tired a lot of the time. If my lungs had a microphone, they would say, I need to feed them softer promises. As of now, I make fake promises because I want to give them fresh air. Right now in Santa Cruz de la Sierra in Bolivia, where I'm currently working, the air from the Amazonian fires puts my lungs on a treadmill in a small room with hundreds of nicotine as the main gas. The norms and conducts of humans have failed my lungs. Smoking kills in packages. So how do we read that? If I were to have a conversation with the contaminated air, it will tell me that being a feminist is not enough because what the patriarchy has done is what is not letting me live. I cannot answer questions on how to become a feminist or an ally. So please do not ask me that at the end. An ally, even though it is one of the words I detest the most these days, because it reminds me so much in so many ways of the word alien. Someone needs to write a piece about that duo, ally, and alien. Because there's nothing more painful to see that interaction in action. A guilty ally figuring out desperately how to help out an alien without acknowledging how the Big Bang happened. If the ally would simply stop for a second, 1 second, just one, he or she would see that the event of the Big Bang happened with a lot of noise. And their voice is that, noise. So first day of class, you see a white or a white passing because that's a thing. Let's not deny that colorism is not real because it is. So first day of class, you see a white or a white passing. Yes, because colorism is a new orange. So you see them walking into your class, and they're all ready to teach about Black feminism and the writing, or Central American writing, indigenous writing, and they're all wearing like wooden like earrings, or they put something in their head, or they put in their t-shirt like hashtag Black Lives Matter. Like, we don't believe you. There's no need. No need. Not for Halloween, not ever. So here are the questions as in that first day of class. These are the questions that some of us have when we're actually in front of someone like that. What do I do? How do I feel about this? I mean, my pancreas is flipping the head out, the heck out, but how do I transmit this, whatever it is? Think about the part of your body that in that moment is triggered when you see that happening. So, 2 questions. Inclusion, diversity. Let's sharpen our tongues because we've got tools. We are in danger. I often speak about life learning when engaging critically, whenever I try to put into words what happens in these encounters. Because it is only happening to the student who is saying everything in silence at the risk of being perceived as the one who will be the difficult student. After all, if a white teacher stands in a room with a curriculum on brownness, Blackness, indigenous knowledge, he or she must know what they're talking about, right? Let us think about what they do not know. This list will be policed for a reason in academia. Status quo, institutional racism. The figure of diversity and inclusion are popping in conversations faster than squeezing the hell out of an orange. In making critical thinking, we have to do critical engagement that has to be above all political and active participation. We cannot longer afford more white people getting hired. Numbers do not lie. I'm not making this up. Nowadays, you can Google everything. I refuse to stay silent, utilizing the political correctness behavior about this situation. I have sat in conferences where there is one sociologist after another sociologist after another sociologist working through a PowerPoint presentation full of statistics of people like me. On and on about, yes, we need more inclusion and diversity. The colleague meets up for a lovely lunch with a white friend, and this actually happened. Who is going to pay for the meal as a thank you for all the contacts of families, of all the undocumented families? She got to visit to ask them about the migration stories. The brown sociologist, in the name of keeping it professional and amicable, does not address her white friend or colleague about the presence she would have in front of brown bodies the following semester. Most likely, students will be learning about their own families through a data analysis of a white woman that has nothing to do with their experiences. Holy shit, that hurts. That is when we speak. That is when we act. That is when we demand. Turning it into change. Don't just put it in your academic writing. Don't just put it into the like a footnote in your academic paper. The revolution will only be held by Instagram and Twitter if the messages are to coordinate meeting points, places to avoid, places to be, share about the fuckeries that are taking place in school, call up others to join you in requesting one-on-one with academic authorities, etc. That's the only way you can share Twitter and Instagram. Their job descriptions are all about making your experience the best and get a lot of money for it. Make them earn their tortillas and frijoles because they claim to love it so much, so make them earn for it. To be a critical thinker is to be a walking question mark. We're on all the time. Like asking that white teacher why she was granted the position instead of a brown professor. Ask that question. Challenge hiring practices. Universities are all about finding the right shoe for their toe that will not swell when walking on campus. This idea of finding the right fit is colonialist and has to be challenged. Students have the power to get organized. If not, look at what these ladies did. They reached and we organized. So make noise. Hasta con cacerolas si es necesario. We are now questioning more than ever how we want our education to be done and who needs to teach it. If I were a white person, I would probably be intimidated as well. As they should, because the time has come and we're not only occupying spaces, but we're taking them back. The awareness of inequality and injustice in higher learning spaces from brown bodies is daily. Just like I have to remind myself to brush my hair before I go in the morning, I literally have to do an extra mind monitoring that the chances of being attacked in some way, shape will most likely happen. I have quotes by everyone you can think of in my notebook that give me life when I am all drenched by the notion of death. One of them is by Sara Ahmed from her book, Living a Feminist Life. And I'm going to invoke her voice. We can be space invaders in theory too. just by referring to the wrong text or by asking the wrong questions. The critical pedagogy curriculum led by Brown educators is a movement. It is a pedagogy of the oppressed, just like Paulo Freire teaches us. It is also a pedagogy of the flesh and blood. A curriculum based on engaging politically in the streets as gentrification happens. It is a pedagogy of intergenerational trauma, but also of intergenerational healing. A pedagogy of accountability and reparations. It is in itself an anti-standardized way of learning because we are called to unlearn. And if we're not giving this space, we create them as we always have. This is not new. We snap our fingers and make harmony. We play loud a cumbia knowing fully we are being admired. We will do every time if possible. So, pick up in class, challenge the authorities. Disobedience becomes our ally in a world where our bodies are being disappeared, chopped, destroyed, and turned to merchandise. Do not be afraid to bring the bones or how the reading complements to the body of work in the library that is 80 to 90% by white scholars. Push, push, and push to create a non-tokenized section in the library. We need a library of our own. We need a space of our own because there's no such thing as a safe space. Was it Virginia Woolf who wrote a book about a room of her own? Well, I want the whole damn house. I'm currently working on a book number 2, possibly, with a title that resembles that need. Under construction, a vagina of my own. Because these pedagogies I talk about also include my uterus. They have been dialoguing with patriarchy even before I was born. If sexism starts in my pussy, she will destroy it. If my sexual oppression found a home in my uterus, that violence will also be eradicated there. Because the fact that we have white teachers teaching about our histories, for example, has everything to do with colonialism and the guardians of what constitutes good scholarship. Brown bodies who are not hired because academia chooses white ones instead has to do with labor practices functioning under capitalism. If not, ask an adjunct. I had a colleague recently telling me that she sees me as making it. I was a bit tipsy, not gonna lie, and did not want to bother her punching the fantastic notions of equity she drinks from the Kool-Aid fountain. Me standing here is not making it. Me standing here is the result of fire. They have names and last names. That is why I stopped refusing to write diversity statements as part of the application requirements of any jobs. They want me to write about diversity? What? Every single time, it meant embodying in one page how my present will diminish the whiteness, their guilt. Para eso mejor me voy a Cirque du Soleil que me paguen más para hacer un show. I refuse with a final period. We have to express verbally what these are: sexism, classism, racism. This is work for life. We are at it, and violence strikes when you're simply resting on a Sunday night preparing material for a presentation on gender violence in higher education. When ring ring, there is a message. This past Sunday, I got a message from a white student whom I did not write a letter of recommendation because I was taking care of my sick mother in El Salvador, and B, because he was inconsistent in his participation in class. You can search that too. Ask Alexa anything. She'll tell you. Seven months later, grandmother dies. I get a message on Sunday, verbatim. You did not write me a letter of recommendation. Fuck off. I have reported that student. And my question is, do you think that he would have said that to a white professor? So, this is the norm for some of us. These are working conditions. So do not come to me with your white tears and telling me how uncomfortable you are when I have to be reading as a white student to tell me to fuck off. So this is the norm, the wall, the obstacle, what we're up against, the reality. Do us a favor and hashtag do not tell us to calm down. Judy or Ben.
The residential school system in Canada separated 150,000 Indigenous children from their families. The last one closed in 1996.
If this is America, that is Canada. The residential school system in Canada separated 150,000 Indigenous children from their family. The last one closed 3 years after my daughter was born. So cite women and people of color. Hire us. Stop tokenizing us and stealing our ideas. If you have held the chair for too long, get up, because if you will not, I'm going to bring a hammock and hang it on that hallway. Get a cultural bypass so you can learn how to consume less of our stories that have only benefited you because you ignore completely protocols of ethics and reciprocity. Keyword here, reciprocity. The only way to detach yourself as a recipient of the default of whiteness is to assume it. And this is where skin, instead of getting thicker, gets burned. I have been over and over in academia, I have been told that in order to become successful, I have to develop thick skin. And just like Amy Winehouse, I said, no, no, no. Skin is one of those texts that need to be in the syllabus, the fourth text, in order to create a pedagogy of colorism based on why we hate Black, brown, disabled, people with different sexualities, religions, etc. And no, a white person cannot be responsible for teaching an anti-oppression class and workshop. The next time that you are in front of a white person teaching that, get up and leave and send the message loud and clear. And if you know people doing that, tell them to stop. You don't need to tell them why, because that Google can educate them. You don't need to educate that. The rule for politeness in political work can be only used to age tequila and wine, in my books. You will learn within these walls to write neat, following a logic that itches like poison ivy. Never tame the struggle. Audre Lorde has taught us that it is better to speak than to stay quiet. 32,000 of my ancestors were killed, passing on the screams that I carry in my hair. We get hit and shh. We get told to fuck off and shh. We get killed and shh. Accountability. El 80% de los activistas ambientales asesinados en México son indígenas. So if there is one thing we have, it's a choice. Excuses are over. Fantasize all you want. The links are no coincidence. Firms operating in Latin America like Barrick Gold, Tech, TECK, and Gold Corp need to be accountable. Implications of funding for students and researchers when they accept their money without politicizing us is also very problematic. If you apply for a grant or for a scholarship, it is your responsibility to find out where the money is coming from. So feminism, as Flavia Sodan reminds us, will be intersectional or it will be bullshit. I used to help my mother cleaning government buildings in a private school when we were refugees in Toronto. The assembly line of desks bothered the hell out of me. I remember telling my mom once all I wanted to do was to create a mess, to get out of the lines, to assemble words in a way that made sense to my visions of knowledge. She passed me once la escoba y me dijo, vaya pues, comenzá practicando con esta babosada que siempre está dispuesta a bailar con alguien. So I did. The analogy of the phallic symbol of that broom got stuck in my head, and I became busy sweeping underneath the archives of the family's intergenerational trauma. In the past, I found a community that was still present, alive, and ready to get out because they had a lot of dusting to share with the world. And I'm going to share one last quote that will bring me back to this idea of acknowledgement of the land. And then you can speak.
Dear successive fathers, explain to me, please, when did the change take place from owners towards of the selfish state? Write down the reasons why the land under our feet became foreign soil in perpetuity. Chief Lindsay Marshall, Clay Pots and Bones, Pacau, I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Clelia. So I know we're running a little over time. We just wanted to have y'all please help us thank Clelia. We got a little gift for her. So if y'all could please give another round of applause for Clelia. We Also wanted to just thank every single one of you for coming here. Anyone that is on Blue Jeans, thank them as well. And anyone else that is going to listen to this recording as well. We might have a few minutes for questions, but we respect if folks have to leave the space. There's pizza there if anyone needs more food. So maybe we can give like 2 minutes for folks that need to leave to step out of the room, and anyone else that stays, we can have like 5 more minutes of questions, if that works for y'all.
Or reactions. You don't need to you can just share anything.
All right, so we're ready to come back and hear any reactions or questions. So if y'all, I think we already have our first speaker. She has a reaction and or a question, so feel free to jump out and say it.
So being another woman of making their way and making a place for their voice to be heard, and about people who are being so I haven't read your book. This was a great talk. Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you. So I'm a first-year PhD student in psychology and women's and gender studies. And ironically, I thought like women's and gender studies would be great, right? We're all about inclusion and shit, like being feminists. So yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I mean, that was stupid of me to think, but here I am. So yeah, my first interaction with a professor in women's and gender studies, this is like our first course, and she equated impoverished people with being anti-intellectual. So yeah, so that was really fun. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then the other day, that same professor, I mean, the other professor's bad too, but I'm not just gonna like sit here and rant. Like I do that on Twitter enough. But yeah, so this other professor, like the other day, like took Audre Lorde's words and just like fucked them up and said, my job here as a professor, what I get paid for is to teach you the master's tools. Like, yeah, I was like, I don't know what you're doing. And I'm basically getting this whole thing. Sorry, I'm just one more. Okay, so then like this other professor, all right, cool. Yeah. It feels good to be validated because everyone, like all the, like the white kids in the class are like, oh, like, look, like what's so problematic about that? But yeah, so then yesterday, I think it was, like one of the other professors, and this is like the second time she does it as well. She keeps on saying that you can like opt in and opt out of your Latinx identity. And I'm just like no, when this like the color of your skin is a certain way, like whether you embrace it or not, like, people see you as a certain way. And she keeps on trying to like rely on theory and shit and be like, oh yeah, like no, this is what it says. And, like, I don't care what it says. Like you don't know what it's like. You can't speak to that just because you have like she like always refers to her white passing like Cuban friends. Like yeah, she can opt in and opt out. I was like, not everyone can though. But yeah, with that said, it was validating to have you say that. I mean, yeah, like it's okay to be angry and to like fight the system. But at the same time, it's also like exhausting. And I guess I'm just like in terms of like practical things that like me and like other students can do while still moving forward in this like fucked up system. Because it's like, all right, like I'm gonna keep on pushing back against this, and then like am I not gonna graduate? Like, 'cause I mean that thing, it's like scary, right? Like I worked so fucking hard to like get here, and then it's like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna get kicked out in my first year because I keep on talking shit to the professors. Yeah.
Works because you need to release from the pressure, and sometimes it's not about being depressed, we're just being oppressed, so you need to liberate that when it's pressing you. So in terms of practicality, it is within the reach of your hand and power to do that.
Gracias por venir. Agradezco su presencia, estar aquí por muchas razones que ya mencionó. I'm visibly brown, and coming into like U of M, coming to the Midwest, Midwest nice is fucking weird. That's been like shocking to see or to like experience here. So I just want to thank you for opening up space. And I've had also like interactions in classroom spaces where I'm like, damn, this white person's really telling me about like oppression and bioethics and all of this other stuff. I'm like, no, I know this. Talk to like your people. Like meet me where I'm at. Like I'm obviously not at the beginner's level that some people are here. So I want to thank you for like just affirming and like validating, because sometimes I just want to leave classrooms. Yeah, so I will be doing that now. Thank you.
And you can, I feel sophisticated. Big Brother's watching. I mean, it's not just about validating being angry. Like, I was just thinking about, yesterday. So I told you I'm in Bolivia. So before I arrived to Detroit, I had a layover in O'Hare, Chicago airport. So, I'm trying to make it to my flight, and then I was looking for a place to have a beer and a sandwich closer to the gate. So I got to the gate, and there is a place called, I put it on Facebook, and Facebook told me to, Goose Island Brewery Pub in Gate C10, Terminal 1. And I walked in, and there was a lot of light-skinned people, and I was visibly one that wasn't. But all I kept on thinking is like, oh my God, I left Bolivia at 2 o'clock in the morning. What's going to pick me up? Thinking about like pressure. I was like a cold beer and like French fries, like, that good stuff. So I walked in, I ordered my food, and I overheard the conversation, and clearly he was the owner. So I ordered the food, I not paid, and now as they gave me the beer, I was walking towards another table because that's where the plug was. And he said to me, do not leave without paying the bill. There were other people ordering there, and he did not say that to anybody else. He did not say that to anybody else. So, I come here, I talked about it in dinner, in my head, I had this thought in my head, and I'm thinking, can you imagine, we are brilliant. We know that already. We're genius. And can you imagine, and we are geniuses, even with all of this bullshit that we have to deal with. Can you imagine all the things that we could do with all the time that we spend dealing with this? No wonder they're afraid. We intimidate. Like our brilliance intimidate. And you better believe that I'm going to report his ass. Just like I reported that student 2 days ago. I have not heard from the dean yet, and I make it visible. I make it visible. That's why I published the book. I'm like, I don't have anything to lose. Fuck that. They didn't kill me in the war. They've taken literally everything that they could have taken from me. What do I have to lose? Nothing. Nothing. Like literally like nothing. I'm at risk all the time, so I have nothing to lose. Nothing. I don't know if that answers your question or just.
Helps. Thank you.
Vera Lucia from Toledo, no?
Yeah, I just wanted I really appreciate the space. I've been looking at what's going on. Professor that ran our gender studies for called Dr. Sushmita Chatterjee, and we unpacked it. He unpacked like Stack and Menha was a text and all of that. So thinking in that headspace and then coming into it's been very hard for me in the last week. I feel like I'm dumbing myself down for people a lot of times. I've been thinking a lot, like the last thing you said about Toni Morrison's words, the function of racism is distraction, distracting us from doing our fucking work, and blaming ourselves again and again and again. So I want to say first just that I appreciate you, but also I wanted to unpack with what you were talking about, specifically with anti-Blackness, but how that shows up in Latinx communities and other brown communities, and how we can work against, because like part of decolonizing and working towards these spaces is understanding how we do violence upon ourselves, and how once we like say we're just going to build our own boat, like fuck these people over here and all these colonizers and shit, we still are doing those things to each other. And like one of my questions that I always ask myself when I'm thinking about research is, can we live with ourselves? Can we live at night with the face that looks back at us in the mirror and talking about that?
That was real.
Yeah, because we have wonderful professors here that do identify as Latinx or Latino. And then a lot of times when we're in classes, like some of us as Black students, we just want to be referred to as Black. We don't want that POC label because it really erases us in our experiences. And there's also like not highlighting the anti-Blackness in the community. Like we got a lot in common. Like, no, you don't. Even in your, positionality, it holds privilege over us, where it's better to say by POC. And it just seemed like it was really hard for the particular instructor to understand that. And it was like, oh, it's not a big deal because we're all in this together. Like, it's really not that way. And I think that the last 3 years have really given proof that it wasn't that way, because they voted against us, thinking that, oh, well, we are not Black, so we're not going to suffer. And now that they are, it really makes it hard to want to do solidarity work to make sure that we fight for all marginalized groups across BIPOC communities.
I published an article about the implications of people calling us that we divide, and how people that call themselves liberals tend to use the rhetoric. And so having like what you're making me think about is in my own family, I have been told to just get along. And like, why can't you just like be nice? And why can't you just like be this and that? Because there is this idea of divisiveness in the family. But how can you let people get away with what they do? Like if I'm gonna ruin Thanksgiving, oh man, I thrive to that. Like the joy is like, if I'm going to interrupt, you better believe that I'm going to be making noise. And sometimes even just like staying silent makes a lot of noise. And just like literally like staring back as if to say like, what are you talking about? You can like, and it is true, like, and that's why the politicizing our politics of experience in curriculums is so important. Talk to the deans, talk to the chairs, like start a hashtag in Twitter. Like look how far Greta has gone, for God's sake. That lady, that young woman from like platforms make noise. We have to make noise. Like we have no choice anymore. Like hashtag, like, I said before, enough is enough.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to what you said about anti-Blackness. Latinx community, both in group. So even in Peru, right, I was like the Black girl, and then when I moved here, he's like African American. I was too dark for participated in. We didn't see me. I sit in this space of being like not Latinx enough for the Latinos and not being enough for like African American community. But at the same time, I know that all of that, can we look at ourselves that we can? But I think it's a who have taken decolonization. Oh, we're just making it browner. But no, it's like it's real hard work. It's something teaching or adapting. Latinx instructor that is completely unacceptable. But Dr. Rodríguez was just saying about making they annoying. Absolutely centered first. Private, there's a lot of anti-blackness from that colorism, right? Here to say that I'm cheering. Yes, across the veins of the earth, like we're it's keep holding, or if you have the energy. Here's the Latino. Telling them that your entire culture right now entirely affected by Africa, by my ancestors, telling them you don't realize that Black Latinos are the ones that most Black immigrants are deported at 40% rate higher than non-Black immigrants. You don't get to tell me that as a Black person, an African American, that there's not something that we need.
That's right.
Mi nombre es Erika, soy del Salvador. And it's so beautiful to see you up there because it's what I have been waiting my whole life. And,
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I get very emotional because I feel everything and I acknowledge that. So this is powerful. This is a very powerful moment. So I am an alumni from the School of Social Work. I graduated 2 years ago almost. And I actually wanted to comment on, how I came with this fire to change the world, to be this community organizer that can talk about the experience of being born a refugee in another country because I couldn't be in my own land, but also understanding being citizens of the world in a sense of decolonizing the fact of how historically our land has been taken away, but also how our bodies have been just killed over and over. And so a few experiences I had here at the School of Social Work by, with white professors included being called when during break I was speaking in Spanish with my colleagues, and they saying that if I really wanted to kind of like have a good experience in whatever I was going to do, I needed to keep talking English. And I had to push back, right? I had to call the professor and tell him that it was hurtful. And then another experience I had was being questioned by a student about the scholarship I got, right? Because I'm not a U.S. citizen, right? But also, what do I have that I got the money, right? What? And I'm like, I'm smart, right? Like, why wouldn't I get it? And so I fought a lot to write those statements, and I deserve them. But the other experience was emailing a professor and setting up boundaries about the way she had called me many times that I was too sensitive about different things, that I got too, sensitive. And I'm like, why? And she never replied that email. And I know it's because of fear, and the fear that I never shut up. And why? Because I was so tired of being told that I was a third world woman. And I'm like, do you even know how are you using the term and where it comes from? And so I'm saying all this now that I have healed, like I have been doing a lot of healing work after graduation, after grad school, because it burned me. It burned me out. And I'm proud now to say that I survived it. I wish I had you or I had many other people to support me, and I didn't. And I really want to say to all these students here who are, going through it and maybe just starting, that you can do it. And if you can stick together and be challenged, challenge each other about learning, about your own experiences, and create these dialogues about how do we build community and how we share strategies for healing as an ongoing process as you're going through the program, because it's not easy. And I try to, go to different people in the higher level, and they just pushed me back. I was even told by one person in the power here that why did I get a visa if I didn't have all the money to go here? So yeah, and that kind of things are the things that actually really can, at least in my case, make me think about being an imposter, right? I kept being like, why am I here? Why did I even try? So I really appreciate your work. I haven't read the book, but now that I know you, I'm going to be emailing you or contacting you. And I really appreciate that you brought the book, because I think we need this. We need to change academia. And I just hope all the people that are here who stay keep trying and making more noise, because if you stay together, I think it will be better. So thank you.
I just wanted to. I just wanted to say, thank you so much for coming. It was so refreshing to really, and thank you all for coming. It was refreshing to see people here that care about this. I also want to thank my friends in the front for putting this on. My first semester here felt I felt like I was like, do I not know what colonization is? Because I'm talking about this and no one, it seems not to be clicking. And people, I actually had a colleague of mine say, well, what's the point of talking about this? We're past this. Of course not a person of color. Okay. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, friends, for putting it on. And thank you so much for coming. And I just wanted to leave a word of encouragement for all of us, because I think this work really is tiring. And being able to take a break in between spring, summer semester and this semester was really helpful to remind myself, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So a lot of times we're looking for the people in power to save us or give us something. They came and took all of this from us, so they're not giving it back. So just echoing what you said, in 67 days, I'm out of here. So, the torch is passed on to those of you who still remain. And I just really encourage you all to stay connected. Do not isolate, and really, really take what is yours, and don't let anyone shut you up. And so thank you for echoing that to us today as well.
Thank you. So the thing that I'm thinking about the folks that were talking about the anti-Black sentiment and just what you shared just now. And I agree that coming together can be helpful. I also believe in pushing back and speaking the truth, because a lot of times we're stuck on being nice, and nice kills people. Bad theology kills, and these notions of how I'm supposed to be the way I'm actually supposed to be, the way that I was created to be, the way I slid down the birth canal, that's how I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be any other way, and I can't really do any other way well. And if you are not a Black, Indigenous person of color, and you may have felt some sort of something
or you wanted to roll your eyes, or you wanted to like stomp out, or you were upset that this isn't centering your experience, my encouragement is to sit with the productive discomfort. Whatever that thing is, I sometimes call people that irritate the shit out of me human sandpaper, because they are actually refining me and making me better. That said, I'm not talking about the system and the disruption and the structural, systemic, institutional things. I'm not talking about that. Yes, that does refine me, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about irritating humans specifically. But if you are not Black, Indigenous, person of color, I would encourage you to sit with your own discomfort. That is called productive discomfort. It could look like calling in. It could look like calling out. I don't need to cater my message of just attempting to live my best life to your experience. So I'm not going to, and I'm not going to continue that. I used to do that, and I'm not. So if you are a student of the School of Social Work and you want to go out and practice social work, especially in communities of folks that don't look like you, even more so, it's even more imperative. I have been concerned. I'm only 5 weeks in, and I observe, and I've been concerned. And I'm like, so with that said, I will leave you all with a little bit of love and light. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate y'all being here and sharing the space. Like Dominique, like you were sharing, honestly, love and light to us all. We're all in this space, and I hope that this was a little bit healing for all of us as well. I'm sure it was triggering to some extent, but I hope that there was also some healing done in this space. And on behalf of the School of Social Work Student Union First-Gen Subcommittee, we really thank y'all for coming. And we also, we're trying to create events, like smaller events that are just going to be for first-gen students. Obviously, other folks are invited, to kind of provide more healing spaces as well, because we don't often get those. So just letting y'all know, keep a lookout. We'll try to coordinate something in the next few weeks.
Action, action, action.